So we need the right doctrine. It is necessary. It is essential. But sometimes these things, meaning, Christian maturity, meaning knowledge, sometimes these things cause us to neglect love. And in this way, we become a stumbling block for the less mature. Therefore, it must be love. Listen, it must be love. It must be Christian charity that sets the limits and parameters for our freedom. Now, it seems very interesting to me, that Paul would single this out, especially in the context of the Corinthians. We know that the Corinthians were lovers of highfalutin philosophy. They loved the high things. They were enamored with philosophy, with orators. They love to go hear the next guy who comes with the next thing. They love this. But perhaps this is why Paul reminds them. If we look back in the first chapter, the second and third chapters, perhaps this is why Paul reminds them that the highest wisdom of the ages, the greatest of all mysteries, is not found in human philosophy, in men's intelligence and intellectual acumen, but it is contained in the account of the cross of Jesus Christ. Knowledge by itself tends to become dominating, and listen, it puffs up. It inflates us with pride. If all we have is knowledge, it hinders us from loving our fellow believers. And perhaps this is one of the reasons that today, I see, this is very sad, but it's true. I see that some theological and usually Reformed churches, I'm ashamed of saying this, but it's true. A lot of our churches are very dry and indifferent, almost borderline snobs. I remember being in this church, visiting this church, and everybody was, theologically accurate. Everybody looked great. Everybody looked sharp. This was a church full of nice-looking people. And they had all their theological spots covered. Every theological box checked. And every now and then, we will visit this brethren, and we'll go and have fellowship and all these things, but there was something there, a dryness, a stiffness. And then we have visited some churches, that very, very, very little discernment, very little theological soundness, if any, but these people are full of love, they just love you to pieces. The problem is that you can be wherever, you can be a Jehovah's Witness, a Mormon, or whatever. They just receive you and love you and embrace you and amen, brother. You know what I mean? So we have the two extremes, We have the two extremes. No, I remember having these conversations with my mother, and she's like, but she's like, I like that other church over there because those brothers over there, they're so loving, they're so nice. And I said, yeah, Mom, but they teach you heresy there. Yeah, but, I like it. They've made me feel good. I said, no, Mom, I mean, we can do that. We can't do that. But it feels so good. There, I feel welcome. Isn't it like that? It is sad. It is to our detriment. The sound doctrine must lead us to love, our fellow believers. And if it doesn't lead us to that, I mean, we have missed the point.